Rolly Romero had a clear message for Mr. Ingram, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get all into it. The kid Jahan, if you've been living under a rock, I'm gonna get real, in detail on who he is. I've been keeping an eye on this kid for a very long time. I've let people know that before in the past. We're gonna get all into it, man. Rolly Romero. We all know he's got a big time fight coming up, so obviously cameras, they just can't miss him. It's almost like he a camera magnet. Clearly he has a fight, ahead of him against Ismael Barroso, and that's coming up. And like I said, he's got a fight. Chip is on the line. He could walk off with a title. Clearly his last opponent had some PED issues. We're going to get into it. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to be breaking news on that. But nonetheless, man, Rolly Romero spoke on that infamous sparring session that had happened. Obviously, Rolly is still coming off the heels of that knockout from Tank. So when we seen him in that sparring session, Rolly, 14, 1 loss, no draws, 12 violent wins by the way of knockout. He stated that when he got dropped by Jahan, that he's saying that he was beating him up. Everybody in that gym know he was getting this, he was getting that. So he clearly, is stating that he was winning the sparring session. And he came out and really said some aggressive shots. He said basically that's the highlight of his, this, that, and the third. Made it seem like that was his biggest accomplishment. And he had to ring off all his accolades. And he tried to say he was some nobody and this, that, and the third, even though he know exactly who he is. Jahan is, Mayweather Promotions, pardon me, the money team, if I'm not mistaken. He's running with Mayweather. Floyd has definitely wrapped his arms around him. You clearly see potential and green pastures ahead of him. You might see his record and say, oh man, he has no this, he has no that. His record, Jahan Ingram, he's 3-0. No losses, no draws. He had 3 knockouts in all his fights, and I actually seen him fight. He was fighting at the Davies Event Center. He's been on tour. He's been fighting overseas. A lot with Floyd. If you haven't been noticing, Floyd has had him in there, and he's been getting some good work. And Jahan has been stating that it's cool that, and mind you, these been exhibitions, so a lot of people were looking at it, whoa, why are you fighting exhibitions? His antennas is getting risen. People trying to figure out why you're not really fighting. But clearly is a method to the madness with how they dealing with him. Basically he's stating that he will basically get ready for these big fights, because these fights with Mayweather, even though they're exhibitions, these are spectacles. Mayweather fighting in the exhibition, that's almost like a real fight. The way, these places, especially overseas, they start promoting it. These people love Floyd. So Jahan is definitely able to soak up all the game from Floyd. And like I said, that's why you see green pastures ahead of him. Whenever Floyd wraps his arms around you, you know that you destined for something. And like I said, Floyd is definitely vocally came out and let people know that what he thinks of him, and things of that nature. So it is what it is. So I think it's very troubling. And Jahan responded. He was on a great channel today. Shout out Southpaw. He doing unbelievable work in boxing. Salute. Make sure you subscribe to Flight Sports. You already know what it is. We definitely gonna pay homage to the creators. Jahan said that he was very upset at the way, Rolly was speaking, because basically he's stating that he's been nothing but respectful, throughout that situation. He never disrespected him or the situation, this, that, and the third. So he kind of was thrown off at how the aggressive nature Rolly was bringing to him. So clearly, which prompted Jahan stating that he would love to get a fight going, to settle that once and for all. Because you got to understand something. And Rolly alluded to he was one of the first guys who set off these, sparring sessions where they recorded it and this, that, and the third. We got to understand, You know, sparring is not a real fight. You know, guys are going in there specifically working on something. So, I mean, it's tough, even though we could say that. But nowadays, with this sparring, I mean, seriously, dudes is coming in with cameras, whole teams, legends. You're not going to tell me when you in that ring sparring that it's not a fight feel. So we could say, oh, this, that, and the third, but when they in that square circle and you got Floyd on one side and you got everybody watching with cameras and this, I mean, seriously, this thing turned into a little more than just I'm just working on a few things. You know, nobody really want to get the best of them. You know, so it's got to be good work all the way around. So it is what it is at the end of the day. I believe that Romero is definitely going to shake off, you know, some of the things that happened in that Tank fight, because it definitely was a devastating loss for him. You know, I think he will be back. You know, he's definitely a tough, you know, competitor. Romero is a problem. You know, he's not done. Do not count this guy out. You know, even Tank has stated on many occasions he's dangerous, he's awkward. You know, he's on record as stating that he wants to have another fight with Tank, even though I don't know why would, you know, that fight even take place. But more power to Rolly, you know, for even petitioning that bout. You know, but like I said, boxing is an incredible place. You know, Romero, he brings a lot to the fight game, man. I know a lot of people might not like him, you know, but he's good for boxing. You know, he's a great character. You know, he's, like I said, some people even state that he's his entertainment outside the ring almost tops his in-ring ability. You know, so a lot of people are gravitating to Rolly outside the ring, believe it or not. So it's up to Rolly, you know, to seize the moment and take that chip and do his thing, man, in this next fight. So people could recognize you for more inside the ring and not so much out. Because his antics, his obviously post-fight interviews, I mean, it takes a life of his own. And I know he's a fighter, man. He started boxing late. He let that be known as well. You know, him bringing off all his accolades, you know, pertaining to Ingram. You know, so, I mean, it is what it is. But Jahan has been doing his thing, rocking with Davies Entertainment. You know, obviously, the Money Team rocking with Floyd. I mean, so let's not act like he's some nobody, you know, and I want to let people know that as well. This kid got extreme potential. He fights at 130. But even though Rolly fighting at 140, I don't know how that even is going to work. But when two fighters do want to meet up with each other, they figure it out. So I could see a catch weight or something like that. Who knows? Rolly is on record as saying he ain't doing no 130, 135. So I know damn sure he ain't going to 130. So, I mean, we're going to figure this out. But nonetheless, man, I wanted to bring this news to you. You know, Rolly came out today discussing that infamous sparring session, you know, which ignited Jahan, and they exchanged words. It's Flight Sports. Subscribe.